We're the indie project Bee and Theo, and we've been living and travelling the world in vans for the past 6 years. We're currently renovating an abandoned stone barn in Portugal to turn into a beautiful tiny home for us and our cats Ginjey Bear and Furrnando. Follow our journey from the very beginning as we document the whole process of creating an off-grid home.
Good morning, welcome back to our YouTube channel where we're living off-grid and converting an old stone barn into a beautiful home. And right now I'm actually just walking down to our goats to let them out for the day.
Probably one of my favourite parts of the morning, letting the goats out in the morning. Fernando's already down here to help us and they're such sweet creatures, you know. They absolutely love their new enclosure, which I'm just over the moon with. But yeah, let's go let them out. Good morning. Ready to come out?
Hello girlies. Come on. It's a little bit breezy this morning, and because it's quite cool in the mornings as well, it feels extra cold, so my hands are actually really numb. But our morning routine before the goats arrive consisted of letting the chickens out and watering the garden. Now that we've got our wonderful goats, it includes letting them out as well, topping up their water, topping up their hay, making sure they've got all the stuff they need. Also chopping some of the branches off olive trees, cork trees, pine trees, because they love all of those. Also making sure they've got enough minerals on demand as well. So it's really lovely to just spend some time with them. They're all just hanging around right now watching me, wondering what we're doing, and they love the microphone on top of the camera. They always love to sniff it. It's very, very cute, and I'm so happy that they're part of our daily routine now.
Before we cut some new olive branches for them today, because we give them fresh olive branches every single morning and they love them, look what they do to them. They strip the leaves off them completely, which is brilliant because these can go in the bottom of Bee's second raised bed. So the goats are already helping us out on the farm.
Something me and Theo both love is adventure, and thanks to today's sponsor, which is Amaze, they're giving you the chance to win an epic adventure mobile. Amaze gives away one-of-a-kind prizes whilst donating money to chosen charities. They're currently giving away an epic off-road Airstream adventure mobile, the Airstream Interstate 24X. I can already imagine me and Theo driving off along dirt tracks, exploring forests and parking up in nature for a couple of days. Quality, comfort and cutting edge tech, along with a configurable cabin you can customise to suit any scenario. With air ride suspension, all-terrain tyres, 42-inch LED light bar, expansive solar power, 2 exterior wash stations, bathroom with a shower, toilet and sink, as well as many more fantastic features. You'll also be supporting the Jimmy Johnson Foundation, which is dedicated to supporting children, families and communities across the United States.
The foundation currently focuses on K-12 public education, primarily through their Champion Grant programme.
So what are you waiting for your chance to win an Airstream Interstate 24X and support the Jimmy Johnson Foundation? Just click the link in our description or head to amaze.com/indieprojects for your chance to win. Good luck.
And while Bee is cutting down some branches, I'm going to jump in a UTV and go and pick them up.
Scattered 3 different types of branches. We've got pine, cork oak and olive, and the great thing is these are all trees that need pruning anyway. As you all know, we've got 5 acres of land, so we have land management to do, and until our girls know us and we can have them out in different areas, it's really great to be able to just chop these branches off and give them to the girls. It's actually really lovely to see them enjoying it. And also we had a comment from one of our lovely subscribers saying that pine needles are a natural dewormer for goats, which is really good to hear because they love pine needles. Next step is to water the veggies. That bird sounds so wonderful in the tree. Our veggies are doing really well. I've got legit cauliflowers and broccolis on the go. I reckon one of the cauliflowers is actually going to be ready to eat soon. I've got my seedlings over here as well that I do need to plant soon because they're getting too big for their pots. We're just setting ourselves up a wonderful outdoor workstation. We've got the chopping station. That's it really. This is the wood that we're going to be using. We're going to be using these 2 for the main frame, this for the centre, and we just need to measure up now cut them to size, and it's a very simple frame, so it shouldn't actually be too difficult.
Stones we carry, clothes we lived in, all the tales we will tell our children. Oh, we're taking the high road. Lay beside me, wake the morning, ever after, day reborn in. Oh, we're taking the high road. I'm setting the sun, I'm ready to run, I'm walking a tightrope. I give you the fall, spring singing a song, we're taking the high road. We're taking the high road. We're finally awakened, we're taking the high road.
So I've got everything lined up that we brought from the city yesterday, and I'm just running some tests because we've decided to go for lag bolts, because lag bolts are super strong and we need this bed frame to be strong and we want it not to move and warp over time. Screws, I'm not a big fan of screws, to be honest. Like, they're good for some things, like I will be screwing the slats onto the top, because obviously you're not going to bolt the slats onto a frame, but I just like everything to be really strong and firm and done properly. So these lag bolts are an absolute winner, and what I'm doing is just checking I got the right size drill bits, because you can't use an impact driver with these. If you do, they will just melt and snap because they're not heat rated. So I got my wrench out, and you want to make sure the pilot hole is the correct size, because if you don't, you'll drive this bolt in and it will just split the wood once it gets all the way in. Let's say that's 10. Should we go 12 or 13?
12.
12?
Yeah.
Let's say about airflow.
What is that bird? It's yellow. Theo is just measuring up the legs. We've gone for 12 centimetre height because it gives a nice gap underneath the bed for airflow, because we don't want any mould or mildew or anything building up under there. I'm using the same wood as the bed frame, cutting it all together so that we can just literally put it all together once it's all been cut and not have to go back to the chop saw.
I'm setting the sun, I'm ready to run, I'm walking a tightrope. I give you the fall, spring singing a song, we're taking the high road. We're taking the high road. We're finally awakened, we're taking the high road. As long as it takes us, we're taking the high road.
We've now got the legs cut. Theo's just figuring out the best way to join them. We're thinking, actually, rather than going through an end grain, oh, my shadow's in the way, rather than going through an end grain, I'm just going to go straight through into the side of the leg, which will be good. And it's all coming together nicely. I think we're about ready to bolt. Let's get ready to bolt.
got the main frame done, so it's a nice big empty space. The next thing to do is we've measured down here for a nice centre beam, because we're going to have a leg in the centre for extra support, and then that middle beam will be a position for the slats to be secured. So we'll have slats there and slats there. So all we need to do now is cut that next bit and then secure it through the middle, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how Theo's going to do it. Probably the same with the bolts like we did on the edges here, where you can see all looks really good.
This is actually perfect, this size.
Oh, that's great.
178. What is actually
No
is the length of
wastage.
that?
We're going to have loads left.
Oh, brilliant. That whole one that I sanded, didn't even need to sand, did I?
No, but you had fun doing
You
it.
just gave me extra work for no reason.
So that's all the wood cut for the frame, although I've just remembered, got to cut all of the slats, which is just really annoying actually. It's going to be an experience.
Well, you looked me in the eyes and you said it, and your face can say it all, so I know you meant it. And if I lose my way, well, I know where to find you. Well, I know where to find you.
The final centre beam is going in. Fits wonderfully like a glove, nice and centre. And it is starting to look a little bit more like a double bed now, I've got to say. I'm kind of a little bit terrified about how on earth we're going to get it up there, because it's very heavy. We're just going to throw it, Theo says, which I think is a very good idea. You know, why not? Let's just lob it straight up there. It'll land on its feet as well. I was thinking as well, actually, when I was watching Theo drill the pieces together, how amazing it is that we've basically built this bed for free. All we've had to buy was the bolts and the slats. We already had the wood, which was fantastic, so it meant that we could design the bed we wanted, because we did look for beds that were ready-made, but none of them would work because we've got such a small headroom above the actual bed, so this will be perfect.
Then I looked you in the eyes with the promise, not brighter than the stars. I'll finish what I started. And if you lose your way, you'll know where to find me.
I've moved spots. Theo's kind of having to just do the last bit on his own, really. There's nothing I can do, so I just get to sit here on the sofa and watch. It's kind of mad to be able to just sit in here now. It doesn't really feel like it should be ready for sitting down and chilling in, but it is. And our bed's being made, and soon we'll be able to sleep up there, which is so exciting. In fact, actually saying that, our house sitters arrive tomorrow, and they're going to be sleeping in the caravan where we live. So we're going to have to stay in here tomorrow night.
And when they signed up, there was no goats.
Yeah, when they signed up, there was no goats. So, but they do know about the goats. It's not as if we're just like, oh, by the way, guys, there's 4 goats to look after. So yeah, tomorrow we're actually going to be staying in here for the first time ever.
So the bed frame is pretty much complete now. All I'm going to do is put one last leg right in this central beam in the centre, just to take any spring out of this beam. There's a little bit, but this is a very sturdy bed. It's the wood we had, so it will work perfectly fine. And then we just need to cut the slats, and then we can lay them on. But then we can't really go any further because we need to oil this. The reason for oiling it is we don't want the wood for any reason over time to go mouldy or to get any mould or mildew or anything like that. Like, let's say we left the barn for like 2 months to go travelling or something. You should never have just bare wood.
Yeah,
it should always be treated.
Even though it will be ventilated, the treatment will really make a difference. Oh, there's no cardboard on that corner.
Yeah, there is.
There we go. This is the true height. Oh my god, it's perfect.
Nice.
Are you going to do 1 or 2 bolts? Probably 2. Otherwise one might be a bit spinny. I suppose it's...
I'm going to do 2, yeah. 2.
In the dark of the night, follow the light, come back home. In the dark of the night, follow the light, come back home.
So we've just cut the rest of the bed slats, and it's actually looking like a bed now, which is nice because that is what we're aiming for. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a block to size that the original slats were the distance apart from each other, and put them in between so we get the slats nice and perfectly equal to each other. We've left a little gap in the middle for any flex, and that's it. We're just going to lay them out, double check they all fit, and then oil the bed frame. It's pretty much complete then. Apart from a headboard. I do need to do a headboard, but I can do that at a later date.
The wind and wave, I'm whispering. Are you listening?
We're both really happy with how it's turned out. It looks a bit mad right now because these aren't positioned perfectly, but it's so sturdy, and it has a height of 12.5 centimetres, so we still have 17.5 centimetres headroom, which is perfect. Means that we can actually sit up in bed and not smack our heads off the ceiling. And I'm really happy that chopping them down to size actually worked. I was terrified that for some reason it would just completely ruin the curve of them, but it looks really good. And it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but when you're far away it really looks like it's just floating because the legs are so low profile. It's brilliant. And we're not fixing the actual slats down yet because I need to oil it, so that's going to be the next thing to do, and then we'll fix the actual slats down because it would be really tricky actually getting in around all of those. So they're just on there just to see how it looks, just as a representation. We need to take them all off, maybe sand the ends, or is that just being a bit over the top? And then they can go back on once it's been oiled. And I'm going to use Danish oil. That's what we used on the ceiling above me. It's what we used on the mezzanine, so it'll marry up really nicely.
The dark of the night, follow the light, come back home. In the dark of the night, follow the light, come back home. Follow the light, follow the light. I saw you standing there with an open heart and with open arms. You welcomed me. I heard you speak my name. Thunder.
So happy with it.
Oh, in fact, I just realised you can't even see it. There we go.
It looks like a floating bed,
It
which is
looks
really cool. You
amazing.
can't see the legs. It's just enough off the ground.
What are you doing?
I don't want to sit on it because there's no slats, and I might just disappear into the middle of nowhere.
It looks really good though.
And it's not going here. It's going where B is.
Yeah.
So I think we've done a good job. Oh, and we've decided. If I just sit down on the
Yes,
edge,
that's better.
we have decided actually we're not going to oil it right now because the people who are house sitting for us arrive tomorrow, and we don't want this place to just stink of Danish oil when we have to spend our first night in here. We want our first night to be Danish oil free. So that's exactly what we're going to do when we get back to Iceland.
Back
Well,
from Iceland.
When we get back from Iceland, we will Danish oil it, get the slats on, and there we have it. We have a bed, and then we move straight onto the ladder. So now we've done everything we can with the bed frame until we get back from Iceland. We're going to jump in the UTV, head down and check on the goats. But also when we're in their enclosure, we're going to wrap with chicken wire one of the trees, and that's the pine tree. They love eating the bark, and we didn't have time to wrap it before they actually arrived. There's a couple of other trees in their enclosure as well, like 2 cork trees, but cork trees can be stripped completely around. That's how they harvest the cork, so that doesn't actually kill the tree. Also, they're not interested in eating the cork bark either, so let's go.
Just as we've come in, just caught Sky in the act, chewing the bark off the pine tree, so this is why we're gonna have to fence it off. I'm sorry, I know you girls love it. Oh. You want some, Margot? There you go.
So lots of people warned us before we got the goats and said, don't put them in enclosure with trees, but this was the nicest area of our property we could hope for the goats, because in the summers here it gets up to 40 degrees and cork trees are amazing shade in the summer. A lot of the time we'll go and sit under a cork tree to cool down in the summer, so I'm sure the goats will be doing the same, and that's why we built it with trees. I think it would be a bit bare if we just gave them a grassy field, and you know, they do like jumping up and eating the leaves, the fresh leaves that are growing on the branches. That's not going to cause any harm to the actual tree, but if they strip the bark all the way around, it will actually kill a pine tree.
It's a good thing we had this leftover chicken wire, because it's the perfect height to stop them from eating the bark, and we're just going to wrap it round a few times so it doubles up on itself. It'll be pretty tough for them anyway on that gauge that there is there to get their little mouths through and actually eat the bark, but this should hopefully keep the pine tree alive. As you saw this morning, we do feed them loads of branches from other trees and stuff anyway, but they do like the crunchiness of the bark. Where is it?
Stretch it around. So I've gone around the tree probably 4 or 5 times in all different heights, so basically the gaps overlap each other.
Pretty tough to go there.
I don't think there's any chance of them stripping this all the way around now. They might try and like peck at it a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be all right. And now I've just got the ending. What I'm going to do is just wind this wire through and make sure they can't pull it off the tree.
I reckon they'll enjoy using this as a scratch post as well, because that's a pretty nice rough material, and I've seen them scratching themselves along there and the other fence as well. Have you seen them using the scratch post that you made?
Yep, I have.
Brilliant.
Yeah, Matilda
Aww.
definitely uses it.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's video, and don't forget to head to amaze.com/indieprojects for your chance to win the Airstream Interstate 24X and support the Jimmy Johnson Foundation. See you on the next video.